Well, that was a wet dream. Now I'm craving for oyster cakes. I'm over here at Wave 9 Food Court over at Woodlands Industrial Park right now to check out yet another rather famous oyster puff place. This is Teochew meat puff, and if the name sounds familiar, it's because they actually started off at a Pasar Malam. Oh, it's been a long time since I used the word Pasar Malam. But yeah, so they were most famous for being the snaking queue at every Pasar Malam. They decided to just set up at a permanent place. Maybe because, you know, Pasar Malam cannot operate during the COVID times. If you're wondering why the name Teochew meat puff, even though it's oyster cake, it's because owner is Teochew and he decided to, you know, name it his own thing. But ultimately it is still the same. It's still a nice shell with some meat and some oysters and some prawns and some stuff. It's freshly fried and it smells amazing right now. I'm gonna start. Right in the middle, right? Wow, this is densely packed with so much goodies. It's one of the more generous feeling versions that I've had. Granted, this is a little bit more pricey at about $3.50 for this. Oyster is nice, plump and fresh. You don't get any of that fishy smell from like not fresh oyster. So one thing to note is this thick batter, slightly wet batter that you have in the middle. This is very important, and I think I've mentioned it almost in every oyster cake review. It gives that unique texture of the crispy and crunchy exterior and then a little bit of the moist interior. You taste more meat than the batter. So in that aspect, it's very different from your usual oyster cake. In that aspect, I guess you can really call it a Teochew meat puff. This isn't my first time having Teochew meat puff when they were still selling it at the Pasar Malam. I did queue for close to 1 hour just to try it out myself. And during that time, right, it felt as if like they were really like trying to rush through the orders, and it kind of felt, sure, it's hot and it's cooked, but it felt like it was overcooked. The heat was way too high, a lot darker in color compared to what I'm seeing here right now. I guess now that they have a permanent place, they don't have to be rushing orders. In a way, I don't know how that works. Maybe they have a larger fryer or whatsoever it is. But yeah, now that they are here at Woodlands and I tried it here, it's the way I expected it to be. It's crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside, everything's cooked nicely, none of it is overcooked. You don't get like rubbery texture from the oyster or whatsoever it is. Well done, good choice on setting up a permanent space. Okay, so I'm over at Northshore Plaza right now, over at the far northern side of Punggol. Behind me is a 6th floor oyster cake. Opened some time ago. It previously operated as a HBB, a home-based business. Business got too good, they decided to set up shop. And I'm here at 1:10, 1:15, and the wait time is about 60 minutes. When I make my purchase, they told me that it might get longer, maybe like 90 minutes. I'm hoping not. Okay, so I finally got my helping after 1 hour and 15 minutes. So about 75 minutes of waiting. Finally got it. This is it, the helping. The shape is kind of interesting. It's not exactly your UFO shape that you're used to. Supposedly they say it's narrower and taller because of the ladle that they use to make the helping. Color is kind of light. It smells a bit like fried chicken. I feel that this helping, they got the wet bits correct. It's something that's usually quite missing. What happens is you got these bits of little slightly wetter batter. You don't really get a lot of crunch from the skin itself. Rather, it's the corner bits that adds crunch. Look at the plum oysters that they put inside. Quite generous with the oysters. Right next to each other, you see already 2 small but very plump oysters next to each other. Oysters are pretty fresh. You don't really get any of the heavy water smell. So 6th floor sells their oysters for about $3 each. And it comes very generous with a lot of meat, some shrimp, 2 very fat oysters. So I guess in a sense you're getting your money's worth. You cannot really do a oyster cake episode without mentioning Maxwell Fuzhou oyster cake at Maxwell Food Center. And I have it right here, tapao back from the place after lunch and back in office. Packed nicely in this wax paper. I think more people should do it, but oil kind of seeps through after a while, so best to eat it fast. So for $2 a piece, this is what you get. It's a dark brown color, which is quite interesting and kind of flat, to be honest. It's been a while, so it's probably gotten a little cold, but still rather crunchy around the sides. So you look at the batter, right? It's a little more drier than usual, than what I'm used to. For me, I prefer it to be a bit more moist. But for $2, I think quite value for money. You got oysters, you got pork. It's quite worth the price. $2, you cannot find elsewhere. Alright, so if you've been a supporter of the channel since the beginning, you probably remember a series called Mainly Main Dish, and in one of the earlier episodes we actually featured an oyster cake specialist, Fuzhou Baohua oyster cake at Berseh Food Center. So of course, if I'm doing an oyster cake video, I'm probably gonna revisit them again, and here I am. So Fuzhou Baohua has a pretty long history. It was originally a stall in 1950, and then a fire broke out, destroyed the house, and they decided to stop the business in 1970. 1985 they decided to open again. That's even before I was born. And then it's been at Berseh Food Center ever since. They've made a few upgrades or changes over the years. For example, if you look over here, right, you can actually see little pieces of silverfish. Jenny, the owner, added it in because she likes the savouriness and the extra crunch it provides. And I think it's a good idea. They actually add blended soybeans into the batter. Supposedly gives it a better crunch, better flavour as well. Let's go. So for $2.80, this is the upsized version with more ingredients. Of course, if you don't want it to be that fancy, you can go for the normal one, which is about $2.30. But for 50 cents more, I think it's worth it. Again, look at the cross section, full of extra ingredients. And most importantly, the batter is not over fried. Stress again, not over fried. Still get a little bit of moist batter. The silverfish really adds so much, adds another layer of savouriness to the entire dish itself. One thing to know is that they recommend that you make a call and reserve your pizzas before you make your way to the hawker center. I made the mistake of not doing that. I was already there having my lunch first, and I thought, okay, I'll eat my lunch first, get the oyster cake, and then I go. Lo and behold, when I reached there, they told me there was a 30-minute wait. To which is, I guess, if you really don't want to make a call, go there, place your orders, have your lunch, then go back and pick up your oyster cake. It'll be still fresh. They keep it warm while it's waiting for you. After 2 weeks of crazy travelling around the island, we finally come to an end to our oyster cake hunt. Unfortunately, there were places that we missed out. For example, the oyster cake over at Bedok 85. When we went there, it was closed for cleaning, nothing we could do. But yeah, I think while it's heartwarming to see, like, you know, old-timers such as Fuzhou Baohua and Maxwell oyster cake still business thriving, still selling this delicacy in this day and age. It's also nice to see newcomers such as 6th Floor doing their own version of this traditional recipe. And what this means is that young and old will still be able to, you know, enjoy these dishes in time to come. Yeah, I think I've gotten it out of my system already. Until then, we'll try something else next time. Bye bye. How nice or not?
The first bite I bite is the oyster, damn good.
Wow.
It's very short.
Would you say
Yeah.
if you compare this with the Maxwell that you had?
It's better. So much liao. Look inside. Don't can see or not, but it's just so much liao. You
Wow.
can tell how much thicker it is compared. Okay. Not liao.
So good.
No, liao, not on. Oh, got more oyster.